3, 2, 1, and boom! And we're in. Kia ora te whānau, and welcome to A Glass Half Full. And today we got someone on our show, and someone that I just met recently and got to understand a bit more about him, although I have seen him walk past me at a few quiet yarns. I've seen his posts come up on LinkedIn here and there, so I have seen him from afar. And I did get the chance to meet him, talk to him, and go, wow. So, Anthony, if I can get you to introduce yourself, that'd be great. Take it away.
Kia ora te omeka, and kia ora everyone. Great to be on board with Glass Half Full. And I've got to say, mate, if I've been walking past you at a few quiet yarns, I'm not small, so all people have to do is grab me. But thanks for the big intro. Anthony McMahon. I run my own business called the IT Psychiatrist. It's an independent tool agnostic consultant where my vision is to work with business owners and business leaders to make sure that they're using their technology in ways that are efficient, effective, and increase their revenue as much as possible while keeping costs low. Tentatively labeled as a virtual CTO, I draw on a lot of background, but that's just what I do for a job. Outside that, family man. I've got a 5-year-old, I've got a 1-year-old, I've got 2 dogs. They may start barking through this, and I apologize if they do. And I also enjoy, like every good Kiwi, I enjoy a bit of rugby in my free time. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. And don't worry, I got 2 dogs here, and I just had to feed them before I got in here, and I did have to chain them up, because when I chain them up, they're a bit more attentive and a lot more quieter when people walk past. So I've minimized the bouncing, and then I put these headphones on, so I got the directional mic so that I can minimize just in case they bark for any reason. And
Perfect.
I took the time to work from home today, and without a doubt, there's someone out there mowing their lawns and doing something, so hopefully the directional mic doesn't pick that up and we won't be bothered. But I suppose, as always, moving into the next section of the Glass Half Full, this is where we like to talk about the shit, so to speak, or the not so good stuff, the stuff that has the potential to sort of bring us down. And why I like to talk about that stuff is, if we take a glass half full perspective of it, Anthony, we just have the ability to see some silver linings and some lessons. And why I'm interviewing good people like yourself is, I've talked about all my issues enough, and I can only repeat myself. And to be honest, I'm sick of hearing myself and all my issues. It's time for, someone to sort of broaden their horizon and get some other issues that they can learn from. So I'm getting on people like yourself to sort of take us to wherever you need to take us, and then bring us through that journey on how you got out. So I'll pass that one back to you, man.
Yeah, and it's a good question, and it's a good way, because I mean, resilience is something we need to build. We really need to encourage people to develop in themselves, and the only way to do it is to talk about it. We've seen some conversations over the last couple of days in New Zealand with people having a swipe at sports stars for not being manly enough because they're not crying, because they are crying on TV. And it's kind of like, yeah, that's a shit conversation to be having. Let's have a genuine one about what makes people people, and accept them for who they are and what they are. So look, my story, I've been out on my own in the model for about 2.5 years. And the way it all started was I spent a large part of my career in one company, one of the larger banks. Anyone who knows my CV will know which one it is, but I won't name it for the benefit of this. And started 2018, they went through their annual round of restructures, and my job got disestablished. And, at any time, being told you're surplus to requirements can always hit you a bit hard. But I remember distinctly my boss sitting down one day and saying to me, "Ants, man, you're taking this really well. Like, why are you so positive about having your job restructured?" I was like, "Man, look, let's be honest. I've been here for 13 years. I've got professional experience. I've got professional qualifications. I've got industry qualifications and industry experience. I've built a huge range of network, a huge knowledge of what I'm doing and what I can do. I've got a business plan that I want to start to go and explore, and this is a great opportunity to do it. And you paid for at that time, it was my postgraduate diploma, and you've also funded part of my master's in management that I was studying." I'm like, and now we've got an opportunity to take, you're giving me some of the payout that comes with often redundancies. I'm like, at which point do I lose in any of this? Like, it's not personal. The organization's made a decision to trim headcount, and I just happen to have been caught out in that. So it's not personal. Again, why am I losing? And I took that attitude out into the market as well, as it wasn't what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Didn't let it get me down. I actually took it as an opportunity to go, hey, that business plan, and my wife and I talked about it for a while. That business plan I've been working on for a while and exploring and talking about, let's go and give it a shot. Let's see if there's a potential there. And here I am 2.5 years later, not quite where I was hoping to be by the end of 2020, but we can thank COVID for that. But I'm certainly where I was hoping to be, at least partway through the year, and things are churning through at the moment. I've got a lot of stuff going on, so it's really exciting time. So I guess the main thing I'd say to people to take away is you make of circumstances what you make of them. They are what you make of them. If you want to make them bad and negative, then that's your entitlement. But you can't blame anyone else, and you've got to find the opportunities that exist within everything and take them forward.
And have you always been this way? Always look for the opportunities, or is this something that you developed over time?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say I probably developed it stronger over time. My wife commented the other day. She was like, "Oh, you're so resilient. You know, you've just got this attitude that you sort of get on with things." And I think that's probably. I like to think of myself as stoic in the traditional sense, not in the modern sense of real men don't cry, but the philosophical sense of you can't control events around you, but you can certainly control how you respond to them. And there's a lot of things that I've looked at with that and going, look, you know, COVID lockdown. So I put this one on LinkedIn right at the start, you know, put out a matrix of what you can control and what you can't and what you should worry about and what you shouldn't. And I was of the view that I knew that a COVID lockdown would be pretty disastrous for the economy, for jobs, for things like that. But there's no point in complaining about it and getting all vocal on social media, on Twitter or whatever, and attacking the government, because we have no control over that. So focus on what you need to focus on and focus on what you need to worry about. So heading into COVID, instead of worrying about what the government's response was, yes, I had a view on if it was right or wrong, but I didn't worry about it, didn't start to let that consume me. I had another problem to deal with, and that was that I had a son who was going to turn 5 right in the middle of lockdown, and I needed to make sure he had a pretty damn good birthday to remember.
Yep. No, for sure. And I suppose when I look back at the history of Stoicism and Seneca, a lot of it was driven around practical ways to process thought in an objective way. Yep. And I suppose when I spoke to you the first time and you spoke about scenarios, one thing that I saw about you was able to look at a situation and sort of break it down quite quickly and then understand sort of what part you were going to play in that situation and what benefit you and value you could provide. And I wonder, like, as a technical person and a person that's come from your background, it seems like that would have really served you well in your role as well, and the stuff that you do provide for your customers.
Definitely. One of the things I like to brand myself as is a problem identifier. So not necessarily a problem solver, because they are two different sides of the coin, but a problem identifier, and being able to quickly work through with a range of questioning, with a range of modeling and scenarios, and just looking at things from a few possible angles, what the actual problem is. And then once I'm in there, or once we've got the customer to that point, is what do they need to solve it? Because sometimes what they need to solve it is not me. They might need someone with a lot more technical skills than me to develop out a solution, and making sure that you then step back out of the way. I'm not going to say everyone should be doing this, and I'm not going to say I'm right and everyone else is wrong, because that's also one of the things I view is that no one's wrong. There's just some approaches that are better than others, let's put it that way. But I do see people out there going, I've got a solution, I need to try and sell it to you, and we're going to come hell or high water, we're going to sell that. Whereas I tend to look at it from no, let's look at the problem, and then we'll find the solution later. But if we don't know what the problem is, how do we know that we're actually solving it? And how do we know we're making momentum in the right direction?
Yeah. And I suppose you're 2.5 years in, so you're, statistically speaking, you should be good. You made the 2-year mark. But let's go back to that first year. And during that first year, I hear that first year is the hardest. How was it hard for you? And did you just manage to use your same processes to, get through those times?
Yeah, so good question. What was hard about the first year for me was probably the learning curve that you go through. I'd been fortunate to have worked in a company for nearly a decade and a half where the work came to me. You didn't have to go out hunting for work. It was project based. You were tasked with jobs, with things to do. So work came to you, and then you got a salary at the end of the week or the end of the month. where I started to, that learning curve for me was actually having to go out and hunt and farm that work as well and build those relationships. And start to just talk to people about what I did. One of the things I took as an approach was not getting hung up on the money side of things. So not looking at what the invoices were coming in and the bills that were going out and everything like that, but actually looking at where the product needed to be and the value was going to be. Because once you've got a clear message and a clear strategy around what you're doing, things start to take care of themselves. So that's one of the things I was looking at, but it was very hard to go from a regular salary to a irregular one.
Yeah, for sure.
And keep that mindset going. One of the first mistakes I made was to try and do everything. And I think every business owner goes through this when they start out, is they try and do everything themselves. I've since branded away. I've got a copywriter. Sorry, actually, I didn't try and do everything. The one thing I outsourced initially was my bookkeeping. I found a good bookkeeper and I got her to do that, because coming from a bank, I kind of knew the value of someone who could do accounts properly.
Yeah.
But I've now got a copywriter. I've got my logo has been designed professionally by someone else instead of me using tools. Just this week, I've gone out to an animator and said, I need a marketing video. I could try and do it all online through some of the cloud-based tools, or I could just pay you to go and do it.
Yeah.
And so that's probably it, is part of that resilience is not getting caught up in the, I have to do it all myself to save money. It's actually like, no, to make money, you have to pay someone to do it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's all about taking into consideration, I suppose, the value of your time as well, which business owners can be poor at doing. And that is a story I have heard before. So good on you for sort of taking that next step and realizing quite quickly as well that, knowing where your strengths are and knowing what can beef you up quicker and get you to where you need to be in a quicker time, while taking into account that COVID just sort of jumped in your lap and just went, hello.
Guys. But that was an opportunity as well. So I've actually, looking back, I've used COVID as productive time, even though it hasn't necessarily been profitable time, if that makes sense. So I've got a few things that I've been working on from a business model, from a service model, and from a product strategy perspective, which I'm really now starting to bring to market in the next six to 8 weeks and beyond Christmas as well. So that getting away from using me as the key resource and trying to sell time, what I'm now doing is sharing and selling knowledge so that people can do things themselves where they have to. But there's that layer of expertise, like I said, with my bookkeeper. An ideal model for a virtual CTO shouldn't be sitting down every week and doing all the work. It should actually be that bookkeeper kind of stuff. Take the pain away and let the business perform, but give the business enough skills to do what they're doing as well. I still have to do my own invoicing. My bookkeeper doesn't do that for me.
Yeah. And I suppose one question, well, the second to last question I'd like to ask you, and one question I hear them say is, let's say you go back to 13-year-old Anthony, what would you say? Well, to be honest, I wanted to change that up a bit. If there was a period in time you could go back and have a conversation, what age would you be? And would you even have that conversation? Because sometimes it's best to just go, nah, I wouldn't go back. I just let it play out as it did. But if you did want to, where would you go? What would you say?
It's a great question. I think one of the, probably because my wife and I were talking about this on the weekend about our kids, they're young, but we're still looking at what the future is. And we're both of that view that if they get to 18 and they turn around and go, I don't want to go into university next year. I want to travel the world, or I want to go and get a job, or I want to do this. We're not going to challenge. We'll have a conversation with them, but we wouldn't challenge them and tell them, no, you must go to university at all costs. Because I think looking back, that's one of the things that I probably should have done differently, is instead of going straight from 7th form year 13 in the modern world into university, is maybe taking some time in between to travel the world, or do a gap year, or get a little bit more experience, understand a few things, and then find out what you wanted to do. Because I think looking back, 18 years, or at 18, that's 20 years ago for me. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I had an idea of what I wanted to be, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I picked my degree based on what I thought I wanted to be. And while it was an IT-focused degree, and I'm using it still to today, it could have gone horribly wrong. I know of plenty of people who have gone through a 5-year law degree, and they ain't lawyers because it's not what they wanted to do, but they didn't want to waste that money.
I am one of the few that actually studied my Bachelor of Science in Applied Computing and fell into the IT world. I had people that did bio degrees and then became flight agents, and
Yeah.
not, they loved it. They loved being a flight agent. They hated doing anything to do with bio. And I was like going, well done, you. You are
Yep.
bloody winning.
Yep.
Oh, no, awesome. Hey, Anthony, thank you so much for your time. And just before we finish, please feel free. Like, is there anything that you're doing, and where can people get a hold of you if they want to, make contact with you and transact in some way?
Oh, how long have we got to answer that question? So I just want to round out with what you said about the microbiologists becoming travel agents. I run a podcast myself. I've got the Biz Bites podcast, and I think next year I've got you booked in for an episode with it, Tia Mecca as well.
Yeah.
But the episode that I most recently launched with a former colleague of mine, Pierre Barrett, he started out studying for a marine biology degree, and he ended up as a digital product owner at the bank we worked at together. So he's come in a completely different career path, and he talked about one of those interesting things. People go to university with these visions of, I'll complete my marine biology degree and I'll be swimming with whales. The reality is that they end up counting barnacles in a quadrant on a beach.
Yep.
Swimming with whales is a long way away. And I think it's the same for everyone. They go on with this dream of what it's going to be like, and then they don't come out. So it doesn't pan out, or there's the hard yards that have got to go with it. So if anyone's interested, that podcast is called Biz Bites. You'll find it in any good podcast channel, but it's also at www.bizbites.co.nz. We are 36 episodes in as of Pierre Barrett's one. I've got 2 more for the year, and then I'm planning ahead for next year, and I'm always looking for guests on that one as well. Awesome. The main 2 ways for people to get in touch with me, though, LinkedIn. I'm fairly prolific on that, as you commented. I've got a rule to post one a day, one item a day on LinkedIn. So I'm fairly consistent on there.
Good rule.
And the other one is my business page, the IT Psychiatrist. So www.theitpsychiatrist.co.nz. If psychiatrist is too hard to spell, www.vcto.co.nz. It'll take you there as well. And I'd encourage people just to have a look around what's through there. There's a lot of content that I'm starting to push in there, a lot of IP that'll be valuable. And I'm just this week going to be launching my monthly newsletter, the Pocket CTO, or My Pocket CTO. So subscribe to that through the webpage as well.
And that looks like a real good one too. That looks like a real good one. As I said earlier, man, I shared that post because I was going, this can help a whole lot of people that are either too scared to go out and use Google and get confused by Google. It'll just help them answer some basic questions, and even the hard ones if they need to. So, thank you so much for your time, Anthony. Know that you're a busy person, so really appreciate it, and killed it too much. Thank you, man.
No worries, bro. Great to be on board.
Okay, cheers, brother. See you.
Cheers, bro.